We're going live now.
All right.
And yes, we are live. I'm here with my old friend Afshin. How you doing?
I'm well, David. How you doing?
So amazing to finally reconnect after 28 years. We did the math, and it was in Ottawa at City Hall when Anna and I got married. You were there, and
Hmm.
it's amazing. And you haven't changed.
Well,
Your
thank you. You
your hair's
haven't
shorter.
changed.
Your hair's shorter though.
I think I've aged a little more than you have,
No,
but yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
my hair looks a little bit dark now because I just washed it, but there's a lot of gray. There's a lot of gray in it.
Mhm.
So you've been listening a little bit to my podcasts just because we reconnected, and you can't believe I'm Catholic now, but we're getting into that
I
later.
can.
We're gonna get into that later. But first, let's talk about you. Like, how were you raised? I know you're Persian or whatever, so we've never really had the conversation. Like, how were you raised? What was the home life like in terms of faith and philosophy? So walk us through the journey up until you and I met, and then since then, got 28 years of stuff to fill in. Just talk about the whole journey.
Okay. Well, I'm Iranian. Not there's no whatever part to it. I'm all Iranian, and I came to Canada when I was about 11 years old. I mean, I've lived in England for a year before that. We left in 1980 or 81. So I
Where
went
in
through the
England? Where in England were you? London?
London.
You remember which neighborhood?
Um, I think it's called Harrow on the Hill.
Okay, I don't know it.
I think it's a working neighborhood, just a very common, nothing special, but nice, lovely. Have great and not so great memories of that. And yeah, went through the revolution. The war had started in Iran, between Iran and Iraq. We came to England and then we came to Canada, nice and easy, and went to Edmonton. So I grew up in Alberta before I eventually found myself as an adult student, just like yourself, at Waterloo, finally doing the thing that I loved. And it was absolutely the best time of my life, all of it, that being at Waterloo. Growing up, my parents were very secular. Um, I mean, I'm Muslim by birth. I never grew up in obviously a Muslim society, and very much influenced by my Iranian heritage, both in Iran, obviously, and also afterwards. And my thinking, I think, is one of an outsider, sort of like a Camus character. Because I never really find myself fully fitting in to the Canadian society, as I think many of us in the physics class that we were kind of each our own little island, and that's it. So, but my parents were loving, and my mom still was loving, and come from a great family, great heritage, great extended family. Um, all of them value. We all share deep values that are not bound to religion or anything. They're just bound to, um, our experience of love and life and family. And yeah, and
I,
that's it. So,
I,
so,
I,
so I decided when I was 10, 11, around the revolution, that this is all, you know, pretty, this whole religious thing is more about a structure and um, the pollution of politics rather than anything truly spiritual. So I decided it's all nonsense, which is how I ended up in physics eventually.
yeah,
There you go. That's me.
I know you have a sister, right? But do you have other siblings?
Yeah, I have an older sister whom I was just visiting until a couple of days ago. And I have a brother also
Oh, okay. Are they
who's
both in the Toronto
one
area or?
where?
Toronto area, like roughly?
No, no, my sister's in California and my brother's out in in the Netherlands.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we really
Ah,
are each our own islands.
you don't get to see them too often then.
No,
Uh,
not that frequently.
okay, so
You don't have siblings though, do you,
yeah, I
David?
got
Oh,
two sisters, both older. One's
mhm.
adopted. The middle one's adopted. I'm the youngest. Then the middle one's adopted, and then the older one. But the family's in ruins. No one is really talking to each other except for me and my adopted sister, because there's a lot of crazy stuff. I won't go into it. But in
Are
any
they in
case,
Montreal?
no, they're in Ontario. Well, my parents are in Ontario. My blood sister's in Ontario, and my adopted sister's in Colorado, U.S.
Okay.
So, how would you describe the basic worldview of your siblings? Are they like you, just agnostic, atheist, whatever?
Oh, yeah, I would say they are atheists. I wouldn't say myself, I wouldn't call myself an agnostic. I'd say I'm an atheist.
Oh, okay. Ah,
And I don't know, but I'm pretty sure my siblings are also atheists, but we're all very different people. You know,
okay.
we're as different from each other's personalities as we are separated by distance.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. And so, some of the characters that we met, colorful characters, Ben, who's been on the show, Jim Lozon, who sadly has passed away, and his sister, and they were both at the wedding, right? They were both at my wedding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jim
Um,
Jim was, I don't know if, I think Martha
I
was too,
think
yeah.
Martha was there. Yeah, I think she was there. But a lot of colorful characters. I remember there was that one guy that was kind of cross-dressing or whatever. He had a beautiful Italian girlfriend. Do you remember?
I do remember him. I'm trying to remember his name. He got married to that beautiful, very innocent
Did
woman.
he really?
Well, maybe they
Paulina?
didn't get
Paulina
married.
Bodici? Paulina Bodici? Is that her name?
That's right. She was
And he
Italian,
was
wasn't
Brad. He was Brad. I can't believe I can remember
she?
these
Okay.
names. She was Italian. He was a cross-dresser. Like, I don't know what his deal was, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he had some major problems.
hopefully he's
I
okay. But he,
Yeah.
he actually got married to her.
No, no. I don't know that.
Okay, okay.
I'm just recalling them. They were like, I assume they were married pretty much at the time. That's why I said it.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
But
yeah, they were
but now
close.
that you mentioned it, I recall that he had been married previously,
Oh, okay.
and that's I think what I made the connection with. I would be actually surprised if he and I don't know if I should say he or she
Just say he. It's a
and
guy.
Paulina
It's a
remain
guy.
together.
Refer to his sex, okay? It's a man, okay? With all the other stuff,
Uh,
whatever, you know. But
I don't think back then it was a thing, really.
mm,
The whole transgender thing.
it's gained steam. Yeah, it's gained steam. But there was also Suki. You remember Suki?
Oh
The
my gosh, I remember poor Suki. Tormented her. I didn't mean to torment her, but it seemed that she found me particularly, and you probably particularly annoying.
yes, yes, yes.
But she was sweet and lovely. I really enjoyed company and
Her
um,
vibe.
her vibe. She had such a wonderful energy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I thought she was cute. I thought Paulina was cute and
Yeah.
surprising. A lot of guys in the physics department, but what few girls there were, some of them were pretty cute. But did
They
you,
were.
you
Not only were they cute, but they were really smart
smart?
women.
Yeah,
They were better than the average guy among
yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah. They
So
were less distracted by the college life or whatever, I think. But do you remember my friend Jeff Rempel? I'd really like to track him down. He was a kooky guy. You don't remember him?
Jeff,
Jeff Rempel. Yeah, he was special guy. He was ex-military allegedly, and he was a
oh my
strange guy.
God,
Do you remember him?
Gun Jeff.
Who remind me of Ganjif? I don't remember Ganjif.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different person. When I was living with Jim, there was a fellow who was he was a bit. He had, I think, he had a bit of a personality disorder, but
Didn't
it
we
was
all?
just. If yeah, well,
Not you, but the rest of us.
I mean, like in the technical sense of
Uh,
of personality, borderline personality.
uh-huh.
But but he was just a gun nut.
Oh yeah.
All about yeah.
Oh, I don't remember
But
that.
but maybe it's not Jeff. It could be a different person I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah, yeah. Maybe a
It's been a
different guy.
long time, David.
Yeah, well, no kidding. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, but there were a lot of special people in
Remember
that. Like I
Rusty?
said, it
Remember
was.
Rusty, the red-haired
Oh
guy?
my God, Rusty was amazing.
Yeah.
Rusty was
Cool
great.
guy, cool guy.
Cool guy and just yeah, really bright.
Yeah,
He was pretty cool. Yeah.
cool guy. Ben kept in touch with another girl from our physics class, which was Tracy. Remember Tracy? I used to live next to her. I think her name's Tracy Carroll. She used to live next to me on Princess Street. I don't know if you don't, if you ever came to visit me on Princess Street. I'm sure you did.
Tracy.
Tracy, um, she was. You don't remember her? She was.
I'm embarrassed to say
She
I
was
don't
close
know.
with Ben. They stayed in touch for quite a while. She's now a lawyer up in Anchorage, Alaska, or somewhere like that. But I'll have to look her up. I only saw her when she was visiting Ben and when Ben moved to Montreal. I don't know if you know that, but Ben lived in Montreal and we got
I
to hang out
didn't
a
know.
bit back in the
Um,
2000s or
well,
whatever.
I'd say other than you within our physics class, I was very close with David and Jeff, and I maintained
Oh,
contact.
Petrov?
Yeah. So David
Ah,
and I are still good friends,
no
and
way.
we maintain yeah. And
Ah,
our he has two daughters also of similar
ah,
age, slightly younger than
cool. Is
just
he still
a few
with the
years.
mother of his kids?
Yeah. They're all together
Is she
and very
Jewish?
no.
Oh, okay.
No. So um,
Does he practice his Jewish faith or no?
no, he doesn't.
Okay, doesn't
I mean, he's
surprise me.
always been an
Yeah, yeah,
atheist.
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah. And so there's David, and then you're also close with.
I really only kept up with David. We
Okay.
only maintained. I didn't really keep up with anyone else.
Okay, but who's the other guy you mentioned? You were friends with me,
Oh,
David, and
Jeff, because I met David and Jeff together. They were roommates and close friends.
oh, okay, who's Jeff? Jeff, what?
Um,
Do you remember?
Jeff,
Was he part of our class?
yeah, he was.
Okay.
He was a dancer from the National Ballet.
Oh, really?
Um,
Oh,
brilliant. One again, just like David, absolutely out of this world brilliant.
wow.
Um, and he married Shauna. Do you remember Shauna?
And no, was she part of our class?
She was part of our class.
Shauna. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, very cool. You have to send photos. Send me photos.
I don't have photos. I don't keep photos of anyone.
Yeah.
The last time I saw them, they invited me to their wedding, which was very nice.
Oh,
And
yes.
the
Yeah.
last time I saw Shauna and Jeff, um, anyhow, that's how I met David. Was with Jeff.
Oh, I should have, in preparation for this chat, I should have sent you, and my apologies to the audience that we're just reminiscing and no one really cares what we're talking about, but it's just
Yeah,
fun to have it on
sorry,
the
guys.
record. It's just fun to have it on the record. But I should have sent you our wedding video. I have a video of our wedding and I want to show it to you.
I would love to see
Yeah,
that
yeah, I'll send you the link.
afterwards.
I'll
Yeah.
send you the link afterwards.
So what's been happening with you? How did you get here?
Yeah, well,
Where
first, before we talk about me, what happened? Like you got married. I don't remember the woman that you married, Andrea.
Andrea? Yeah.
Was she
So
part of physics or part of UW
no,
or?
no, 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 no. She was. We just met her in Toronto, kind of at
Okay.
random, and then she contacted and got in touch with me, and we started seeing each other.
Are you
So
still friends today?
we're married. This
Oh,
is
oh, you're still married. Okay, I wasn't sure about
yeah.
that. Oh yeah, yeah, because you told me she might come home now. Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, yeah. What am I
So
thinking?
so yeah, 28 years later, more than that, we're still together.
Cool. Did you get
Uh,
married before or after Anna and I got
after
married?
physics, so we were together for 6 years before we got married
Ah,
officially.
Ah,
Um,
well,
yeah, I came to
congratulations.
Toronto. Thank you. And I went and worked in a pharmacy lab at U of
I
T for a
remember that
couple of
part. I
years.
remember the allergies
So,
you had.
and it was a nightmare. I went and did a master's with one of my profs, well, here in pharmacology, and then I started working at J&J.
Oh,
Started out in sales, and then I had um, my my hit and miss career in the pharma industry for a number of years until I just got absolutely sick of it, and I had burned out, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
cool.
And that was like 7, 6, 7, maybe 7, 8 years ago, before the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And I just quit. So that's my little story.
That's cool. What is the calligraphy behind your head?
It's a but Andrea, before we met, was an ESL teacher in Japan,
Oh,
and she got that there. And the symbol, according to Andrea, says kokuru, which means heart,
mhm.
kind of like a home, heart, and courage. That's all.
Ah,
So it's a yeah.
cool. Well, I hope she'll come and talk to me on my podcast, and I can get her side of the story. I
Um,
always like to do
don't bet on it, but we'll,
that. Ask her anyway. I always invite my guest spouse to come on. So yeah, I don't know why. I always think of you. I don't know why. I always think of you as separated or divorced. I don't know why that is. Why do I have that impression?
I don't know.
Maybe the rumor mill. Maybe someone told me that because there's a lot of rumors going along around.
I, how is that possible? Because I've only kept up with David. So I don't think you've heard it through any rumor mills. Or if they have, it's completely made up. Maybe it's like me saying that Paulina and Brad got married.
Right,
Whereas
right.
I honestly, it's only because I assumed they were married at the time because they were together the whole time we were there, right? But when you said it, I remembered that no, Brad had been married
Mm.
before he ever came, but that was so I'm remembering a strand of his story.
So
Maybe you just can't imagine me. Nobody could stand me for any period of time. So
no,
why would I
no,
be this?
no. No, but tell her to come and talk to me. That'll be fun to hear her side of the story. But before I tell you about my journey, whatever, and I've told it so many times, it's really obnoxious to try to repeat it again. But why don't you tell me and the audience what your impression was of me during my during the early to mid '90s? What was I like? Don't hold back.
Well, I'll tell you, this is the thing. This is why it's so shocking to me that, first of all, you've become Catholic. But having watched a few of your podcasts, I see so much of you still that
Okay.
you haven't, in a sense, in some ways, you haven't changed. So obviously, I thought you were. I, I thought, first of all, that I know you're incredibly bright, David. You struck me as very quick, and you're so different. Like again, you as a person are from an entirely, in every way, a different world than I come from, right? So you were an enigma to me. Who you are. I'll tell you, you had a huge influence on me because from back then, you recognize that every person has a story, and you were so good at people just wanted to reveal themselves to you back then. So this podcast, in a sense, is a natural thing for you. So you were so good at getting people to reveal themselves and what's really important to them to you. And every woman that we met, just gravitated to you. So it was like really annoying.
I would not be married if it were not for you. I would not be married. I'd still be a virgin, okay? Because I
Really.
was a virgin when I met you, okay? I was a virgin. I hadn't had sex with
Uh-huh.
anyone. and it's only because of you, okay? Because of you. This is honest to God's truth. Because you gave me the confidence. Because for some reason you would stare into my eyes like you were in love with me, and it was like I felt the appreciation. Like this person, this person really values me. And you're the first one. You're the first.
Well, I was amazed at you because I could see how you could communicate with everyone and how you were genuinely interested in people's story and people that I would have just looked over, just sort of dismissed. You looked at them and you were like magically able to get these amazing stories out of them immediately, including Jim even.
Ah, ah.
And so I was really struck, and that was a big influence on me, David. But also, I think part of it was the fact that any women that we met, you know, they immediately lost interest in me, and they were all fucking interested in you. Sorry about the language there.
Okay.
Is that I realized also, like, there was a bit of there was a lot of charisma that you had in that sense, but a lot of could never really trust you fully.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is sort of like there's this you're both magnetic, but there's this dark side also that always made me feel like I gotta protect myself from you also.
Yeah, for sure.
That was my impression. I'm
Yeah.
not sure that impression has changed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you're strong. You're very strong with your intuition, and that's like a feminine trait. And I have the same thing. So I'm just wondering, was it because of your sister and your mother? You're closer with them than with your dad and your brother, or is it just natural that you're just very intuitive in that way?
I say
Sensitive.
no. I think I would describe you that way, but to me, it's not at all natural.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm the most, in terms of socially interacting with people, I'm the most awkward person, the kind of awkward person you'd expect someone who loves physics to be. So it was actually, this is the thing, it was by watching you and people like David, people who for whom these sorts of interactions come naturally, that I consciously understood that everybody does have a story, and there is interesting things about everyone and everything everywhere. So I think that was your really positive influence on me. That's what I'd say.
Very cool, very cool. So you weren't aware of the fact that like I was blossoming because of your friendship, because your friendship meant so much to me.
You've said that, but I had
You
no
didn't know.
idea. I had no idea that I had that kind of influence on you.
Like
Did you know?
legitimately,
Did you know that you had that kind of influence on me in
No,
terms of
no,
the way
no.
I looked at
I thought you
people?
were a stud. I thought you were like, gorgeous and like you know, you were
I was so
so
awkward. Are
warm.
you kidding
No,
me?
you were like a stud. You were like so warm and just like you were just like looking at
Well,
a Persian
look,
god.
it's no, and I was pretty oblivious with people, but I again, this part of my character, I've always had a certain degree of confidence in
Okay.
myself,
Yeah.
and I think that comes from my family. That comes from having grown up very securely in a loving family who completely believes in you.
Plus, your voice is very sexy. Your voice.
Well, thanks, David. It's
You've always had that. You've always had that voice. I got my little nasally
anyhow,
voice.
enough of this
Yeah,
love
yeah.
fest. Let's talk
Okay,
about
okay.
things that matter.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk. We'll get the audience engaged. They're asking. My friend Phil Gonzalez is in the live chat, and Redens. I hope I'm not pronouncing that right. He says, "Did you have glasses back then?" No, I didn't have glasses. I'm 53 now, so that's why I'm reading. They're just reading glasses. So because I'm on the computer, I have to wear them on the computer. So that's the answer to that question. But so yeah, let's you shoot the questions, and I'll hit them out of the park
Mhm.
in terms of the journey, because I don't want to just tell the story. I'd rather you prompt me with
Mhm.
questions. Okay.
Um, well, specific was there a specific event like that made you turn to God to like this is a pretty big change from being the carefree atheist that I thought you were.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know when I tell my story of my conversion, you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's kind of like me trying to understand my own life, and I just have a superficial understanding of it. God really knows my heart, what happened, and how He's working with my heart. But the superficial analysis that I can give and that I always give on the podcast is that I was a seeker and reading philosophy as a hobby and always seeking the truth and same. That's why I studied physics. I thought that this was going to allow me to understand ultimate reality, and it turns out they're
Yeah.
just grinding out workers for industry. That's basically my cynical reaction to the education system. It's like this is not interesting, this is not feeding my soul. So I was more interested in just running around having fun and being silly at university rather than taking it seriously and working hard and all that sort of thing, as you pointed out. So yeah, I was disappointed with the education because I thought I was there to understand ultimate reality. um, so yeah, I'm a seeker. I've always been a seeker, and to make a very long story short, my atheism got darker and darker and darker, and as I'm studying the Western tradition of philosophy in a sort of chronological overview, diving into chapter by chapter of this crazy story of Western philosophy, I would go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole and ended up in some strange places, because I am creative and intuitive and a little bit crazy. It's easy for me to get wrapped up in whatever I'm studying or reading. So it just so happens that by 2009, when I converted, I had gone down the rabbit hole and I ended up being a solipsist, a hard solipsist, which means that I truly believed that I was the disembodied mind, the one mind of Buddha, or whatever you want to call it, God, just the one mind. Like there's no other person, there's no material universe. My hands aren't even real. I don't have a body. I'm a disembodied mind, and this is all just a video game, or a simulation, or just a dream, or whatever you want to call it. So that's it's not a healthy state of mind to be in, but that's where I was at, and because of the journey, the philosophical journey of trying to find out ultimate truth, because I used radical doubt, which is a technique that Rene Descartes championed. Radical doubt means you doubt everything that you can doubt, and the only thing that I had left was I think, therefore I am, because when I deny my own existence, I'm affirming my own existence. And that's the only thing. And that's what Descartes built his rational system of, modern science on. And, but for me, it's like I was stuck in the solipsism. Now, what happened, ironically, is, I'd heard about the cogito of Descartes, but I hadn't really read him. But in my chronological reading of Western tradition, just as I was in the throes of hard solipsism, which is a very dark place to be, not quite as dark as nihilism, but almost, because it's very lonely thinking you're the only being. It just so
Mhm.
happens that in that chronological study of Western tradition, I came upon Descartes, and he talks very openly about, not only radical doubt, but the hard solipsism that arises from that when you go down that rabbit hole. And he offered a solution, and so I took the solution, and the solution was, well, you're not God. God is God. That's obvious. It's obviously there's no evil demon that's making this fantasy world, and obviously God exists and He's good. So it's not much of a rigorous proof, but it's all I needed to grab a hold of it in my existential dilemma
Mhm.
of thinking that I'm God. So I said, okay, I'm not God. God is God. And then I started looking rationally at the proofs for God's existence from metaphysics and from ontology and these sorts of things. And I hated Christ and His church. I hated Christianity and the Catholic Church above all. So I assumed, well, I must be a Muslim of some sort, even though I don't believe in the Quran or Muhammad. But I can't be a Jew because I'm not ethnically Jewish, and I can't just join them as much as I might like to. And I don't want to be a Christian. So I was sort of a de facto Muslim, or what I think is more accurate to say, sort of a generic monotheist. I believed in the one God of classical theism, but the reason that I took the leap into organized religion is because of an inner compulsion that I had. Because as soon as I accepted that God is real, that I'm not God, that God is God, as soon as I
Mhm.
accepted that, there was a change that took place in me, and I was flooded with grace. I had infused knowledge, certain things that just like made sense to me, and most importantly was this compulsion, this inner desire, which I could not ignore or suppress. And I didn't want to ignore and suppress it, even though it was counterintuitive and didn't fit in with the person that you knew. And this compulsion was to worship God, but to worship God publicly. I had to join a group that worshiped God publicly. That was necessary for me. So, to make a long story short, I ended up, I was at work working in a computer store. This monk walked in, a Catholic monk walked in. It sounds like a joke, but God does have a sense of humor. This Catholic monk walks in for the first time. I've been working there for years. Catholic monk walks in, and I said, "Hey, I just discovered your God. I'd like to talk to someone about him." And he said, "Sure, we'll just come across the street. There's a monastery." I'm like, "What?" And so there's a monastery across the street. It's hidden in plain sight. And he took me to the Catholic Mass, and I said, "I want in. I want to join. I want to worship God. This is beautiful the way you worship my God. But I don't believe in the incarnation. I don't believe in the Trinity." And he said, "No problem. I'm going to educate you." So he educated me over the next, whatever it was, 4 months or 6 months, whatever it was. And from March till December, whatever, do the math for that. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, like 8, 9 months. So, yeah, I did a lot of readings, and he told me, the fact that you don't believe in the Trinity or the incarnation, that makes sense because it's not something that you can know rationally, and your journey to God was a rational journey, but it's not contrary to reason. I'm going to give you the readings, and you can ask me questions, and if you accept the teachings of Christianity, then you're Christian, and if you don't, then you're not, whatever. So no, there's no real risk involved, but just come and get instructions. So as I got the instructions, I asked lots of questions. As you know, I like to ask questions, and I always said yes to the answer. The answers were satisfying, even if it was mysterious, beyond my reason, but it wasn't counter to my reason. So that's, in a nutshell, how my journey to God took place.
Okay. So I've got like at least a dozen questions.
Go for it.
I want to let's start with the fundamental. So I get what you're telling me, that your journey of Western philosophy led you to a state of solipsism, by which I understand, if I understood you correctly, you mean that you are...
I'm all that is.
Yeah, that your reality as you're seeing it is, or less than that. You are just all that it is.
There is nothing else but me. I am all that
now,
is.
Why is that the only... It seems like a very duality. Either there is an external God, or you're seeing yourself as the only existence. Why? Why is that the only two options?
Well, do you
why can't you just why can't you just be David and nothing more than David?
Yeah.
And just this very limited number of molecules and consciousness within this greater universe.
Yeah, well, it has to do with necessity and contingency. It's like, either I'm contingent or I'm necessary, right? So I thought when I was a hard solipsist, I thought I was necessary. I thought I was the one necessary being. I saw eternity. Like I was crushed by the weight of eternal life. Like I was, I mistakenly attributed to myself eternal life. Like I saw eternal life, that life is eternal, that life is not brought into being and it will never be extinguished. I saw that. I was like, I encountered that, and I falsely attributed that to myself, that I am that eternal life. But it stands to reason that either I'm contingent or not, and if I'm not contingent, I'm necessary, and that's what the uncaused first cause is. That's that then which
when
nothing greater
contingent on
caused, composed,
right? So why is the alternative? If let's say you are contingent, why is the answer God?
Well, because
couldn't there be an infinity of possibilities that could?
No. We can know with rational, logical certainty that there is one and only one necessary being. That's what everyone calls God. Like there's one and only one uncaused first cause. Because if we take that chain of cause and effect back, it can't be an infinite regress. And even if time goes back infinitely, even in the moment, even now, right now, there is a series of causes in each and every moment, efficient causes that are
I,
essentially ordered right now, and there has to be a first one in each and every one of those essentially ordered series of causality,
even if we
and
call
that's
that
what we
the
call
Big
God.
Bang,
That's what we call God. The Big Bang. We don't
even if
need. We don't need to worry about the Big Bang, like whether there's a Big Bang or not. That's irrelevant. But even if we just think about right now, there's a series of essentially ordered causes in every that lie behind every effect, and the effect is manifest, which means because the effect is manifest, that means that there is the sufficient reason contained in the
Mhm.
essentially ordered series of causality in that vertical dimension. If we freeze time and we just look at this effect, this particular effect, like I make a noise, bang, okay, so we can talk about my finger, my arm, and my will, and everything that caused that noise to happen at that particular time, and we know that there's a first member of that essentially ordered series of causality. So we don't need to look at the beginning of time per se. We can look at any moment in time, and we know that
Mhm.
there's one and only one
Yeah, I
supernatural,
mean,
timeless,
if-
atemporal, first efficient cause, and that's what we call God.
well, I'd say that that's. I mean, as a physicist, obviously, I accept axiomatically that there is causality, right?
I hope so. There's
It's
some
a,
physicists that
it's
are
a,
doubting
it's a
that now.
that is to say that there are things that are real, right? You can't have any version of reality without causality. If the world is not entirely subjective, as you say, that
Yeah,
you are everything, you are the
yeah,
only disembodied
yeah,
being,
yeah,
then there is causality. But to attribute it to a single event or a single being, it may be so, but it could also be the limitations of our consciousness. I mean, we have a very limited consciousness, right? So one of the things in the last few years that just blew my mind is Penrose's CCC, cyclic. I forget what it stands for. Have you heard about that?
no, I'm gonna Google it right now. I may have seen it in some videos.
So his
Penrose CCC.
yeah. So basically, from what I understand it to mean
Conformal
is
cyclic cosmology.
that's it, which is I think is the closest thing to truth that it just resonated with me. I had thought about something like this before because I think the way I understand it basically is that thermodynamically, a, a very highly entropic system
Yeah.
is the same as a very low entropic system. That is, it's like a circle. If you think about it, a very high heat that is uniformly hot is very similar to a very cold universe that's uniformly cooled. The entropy is, the degree of order or disorder is the same, and that this Big Bang emerges from this from a slight perturbation from in this uniform system. So his idea basically is that the Big Bang is only the latest, it's like a cycle, it's only the latest Big Bang of a much older universe that had grown to um, that had become cold essentially
Yeah. But
at some
that's
point.
why that's why I like Blessed John Duns Scotus's proof of the uncaused first efficient cause, because it ignores time. It ignores the timeline. Oh, what came before, and Big Bang, and what caused the Big Bang, and all that sort of thing. It ignores all of that, and it's the only demonstration of God's existence which is a strict demonstration, meaning that the effect is necessary, but also the cause is necessary, according to Aristotle's definition of a strict demonstration. And it's the only one that's a posteriori. It's not a priori like all the other ones that you read about. Like all of St. Thomas Aquinas's proofs of the existence of God, they're all a priori. But and Anselm's ontological argument is a priori. But Blessed John Duns Scotus's proof is a posteriori. It starts with an effect, any effect, doesn't matter what it is, any effect that is manifest, and we don't
Must
we
have
don't
a
have to
cause.
we don't have to ask about the Big Bang or
No,
cosmology or anything else. We have a manifest effect, and we look at the efficient causality in the moment. And so it's a brilliant proof, and I suggest you look into it.
I mean, look, we both agree there's causality. The question is, you're attributing a direct line to that causality. You're saying it's God. And I'm just saying, and it's not being agnostic, I'm just saying that as a scientist, I've always believed there's a natural explanation for something. I might not know that
Yeah.
explanation. And that's not being agnostic. It's just saying that my consciousness isn't big enough, just as I wasn't good enough to continue in physics as I would have hoped. Because I went into physics hoping having the same vision as you of understanding
Oh yeah.
reality,
Ah.
understanding,
Ah.
right? And then I realized, no, there's people like David and Jeff, and and you really need to understand the math at a much deeper level than I'm capable of. And that's okay.
Yeah, but if I say 6 quadrillion times 12 quadrillion, you know that 7 quadrillion times 13 quadrillion is bigger. So you don't need to be able to comprehend what a gajillion is. You have reason. You can know, things that are mysterious, but you can still know certain things about them. For me, the uncaused first cause remains a mystery. That's the God that I worship. God is a mystery. Okay, but I'm not going to pretend to be dumber than I am. I know that there is one and only one necessary being. That's a mystery, but I know that it's the case using the God-given reason that I have. And you could do the same thing. Just look at creation that's around you, and it's not a direct thing; it's an indirect thing, because we have to think indirectly. We have to use analogy, but it all
Right.
it all has to do with causality, and it's within our grasp to do that. But the uncaused first cause, or God, as I call him, will remain a mystery, and it's not something to be comprehended. It's something to be apprehended. Like, you can go to the ocean, you can touch the ocean, you can drink a bit of the ocean, you can dive into the ocean, you can play in the ocean, and you could even explore and map out parts of the ocean. But you're not going to comprehensively do that. But it doesn't take away from that which you are able to
No.
experience and document and teach. You could
Oh yeah.
you could
No,
give
no.
lecture series on the ocean, but you don't
Yeah.
know you know barely anything about the ocean. Okay, but
Absolutely.
so it's a difference between apprehension and comprehension. It's the same thing with
But
God.
it's also an awareness, a self-awareness of your limitations, of how you observe, how you experience that, right? Whether you experience it through a language of mathematics or through your senses, even knowing that your senses are limited. So
Ah,
there is so
you
you're projecting your both what you think is real. It's a model. That's why I love physics. It's a model, right? It's not reality.
I want to ask
It's
you.
the limits of our understanding.
I want to ask you something about sense perception, because this is a lot of people walk around with this naive realism. That's a technical term philosophically for people that just assume, well, the other and the material world seem to be there, so let's just assume that it is and get on with life. Okay, just sort of like as a very pragmatic thing. Well, Afshin, you seem to be a real person separate from me, so I'm just going to go with that assumption. That's called naive realism. But when it comes to actually testing, either philosophically or with empirical science, these alleged sense perceptions that we have, there's absolutely no basis. There's no basis on which to test them, because it will always come back to a cyclical or a circular argument where we're using those very alleged sense
Well,
perceptions to validate the sense perceptions themselves. So it's always going to be circular. It's never going to be a valid.
no,
Yes.
I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, first of all, it would. The point is, it's always that way as long as you're not aware of what your assumptions and the limitations of those assumptions are.
Well, can you tell
For
me of
instance,
can you tell me of any philosophical or empirical test that would validate these alleged
mhm.
sense perceptions that you have that don't involve those very sense perceptions? I don't think so.
Well, how about, for instance, extending the range of our senses through instruments, like looking into the ultraviolet? It's not because to confirm something that we can observe independently, like the speed of light or anything that's tested. If they are tested and they arrive at a consistent point from different mechanisms that are entirely independent of each other, that's what gives physics theories confidence, right?
No, but you're assuming the very senses that you're trying to validate with this test, right? You can't you can't say, well, I know that my vision corresponds with reality that's a real sense perception because I can see. No, but we're trying to establish the validity of the sense of sight. Is
Right.
it, does it correspond with reality, or is it just a subjective fantasy? Are you just dreaming, or is this reality? Are there, like with my fingers, are they really, do they have sense perception for touch and heat and so on and so forth? Or is that just a subjective experience like a dream or a fantasy? And I have this idea of the finger and the touch and these sorts of things, but it's not real. It's virtual.
Mm.
It's not real. It's virtual. And there's absolutely no test you could ever do to validate these alleged sense perceptions, right? It's only if you believe in God, that you believe that you're a creature and God's a creator, it's only then that you say, oh yes, well, I do have real senses. There is a real other, there is a real material world. And
But that's not proof either. That's just, again, a leap of
no,
faith.
but we can prove that God exists, the uncaused first cause exists, and then from there we have confidence in science, natural science, and philosophy, and all the rest of it. But until then, if you're an atheist, as you are, you don't have any basis whatsoever for belief in the alleged sense perceptions. You just don't have that. Without God, you don't have that. So that's another reason why I'm very happy to have found God. I mean, there are many reasons, but that's one good reason in terms of physics, philosophy, and all the rest. It's like it's a far superior position. It's just a far superior worldview because you don't have that. All you have is naive realism. Well, of course, I stubbed my toe and it hurt, and therefore the sense perceptions are real. Well, that could just be an illusion. It could just be virtual.
But well, it could be. I mean, I won't deny that, but it seems real to me.
Yeah. That's naive realism. That's naive realism. Just it seems that way. Let's get on with it.
But
Like,
yeah, well, but um, let me ask you this: why should you question that as being reality?
well, I
I
mean,
mean,
this is
what
the
I
thing.
would say is that I know that we can see in the UV. I know we can see in the far infrared. We can. There's all sorts of different ways to perceive things. We can just think about things, philosophically. But why should I? So there are limitations in terms of our perception. But why should I doubt the reality of that narrow band of reality which I can perceive?
Well, we want to doubt it so that we can tear down all of our assumptions, all of them that can be torn down, destroy everything that can be destroyed.
Mhm.
And if there's anything left, then we build on that. And what's left, according to my existential experience and according to Rene Descartes, what's left, once you apply radical doubt, what's left is I think, therefore I am. That's what's
Yeah,
left. And you have to
some
build on that. You have
consciousness.
to build on that. You have to build
Mhm.
on that. So, I mean, Rene Descartes himself, you may not be happy with his hand waving proof that God is real, but that was just the
Mhm.
culture he lived in. He was culturally Catholic. He was not a good Catholic. He was not an Orthodox Catholic, but he was culturally Catholic. He just culturally was like, yes, of course, God is good. So you may not be happy with that proof, but for a good proof, I turn to Blessed John Duns Scotus, and that's a good proof. But he was just sort of assuming it because that was just the air he breathed. It was like he was just like,
Mhm.
that's the culture. He believed in God, so he didn't even question it. He said, of course, God is real. So, but he built the natural sciences. He built on a solid foundation using that. I mean, he jettisoned a lot of Aristotelian ideas like the formal cause and the final cause, and he built a sort of what I would consider a flawed model for the sciences. And although there's great technology that's come out of his work, obviously the technology we're using today wouldn't have happened without his contribution to with modern science. But philosophy has suffered because of it, and the philosophy that's couched around the natural sciences and physics in particular has suffered because of the extreme jettison that he made of what I think is essential philosophical principles. And even now, like I said earlier, there are scientists who doubt that 1 + 1 = 2. They doubt the principle of causality. They doubt the principle of sufficient reason. They're doubting all these axiomatic things because we're not grounded in philosophy as we used to be. So our hard science is suffering. Same thing with the medical sciences. If you look at the pandemic or COVID or whatever it was that we went through, there's a lot of bad science because the philosophical understanding is lacking, right? The philosophical education is lacking. So for me, there's a hierarchy in the sciences, and I'll let you respond to this. There's a hierarchy in the sciences where you have God, who's the big S science. He is knowledge itself. He is wisdom and truth. And then underneath God, we have theology, and then underneath theology, we have philosophy, and underneath philosophy, we have the natural sciences, and it goes down from there. And the natural sciences take as axiomatic assumptions metaphysical principles that come from philosophy, and so on and so forth, up the hierarchy to God himself. So all of this just to explain how I see the crisis in the culture in Western society, the godlessness and the bad philosophy, and how that contaminates the natural sciences. And I'll just let you respond to all that.
I'm not sure. I can't talk about philosophy, but I can, outside of the narrow realm of physics, but I would say that science is in a very poor state, not because it's fundamentally flawed, but because the practice of science, or science, is practiced by people who don't question the assumptions, don't even understand the assumptions or the scientific method. It's all about the application. It's not really, most people don't practice science, they practice
Technology.
Engineering, exactly. And they think they're doing science, or they think they call themselves scientists when they're not. And this was part of the reason, again, one of the frustrations I had with the pharma industry, which I was part of. So, it's just, there's a lot of bad science. I'd agree with that. But I want to, let me,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, if we can shift, I'll go to my second question.
Of course, yes.
Because to me, when I think about Catholicism, I think of it as one where that is not, again, it's very much faith-based, that it's not open necessarily to inquiry and questioning. Like you don't have a personal, historically, you don't have a personal relationship with God. You have a relationship with God through the church, right?
Well, the church is God. That's the thing. If you've read the Bible,
Right.
I don't know if you've read the Bible, but Christ and his church are one, and Christ is God.
Right.
So
But
the church is fully human and fully divine, just like Jesus Christ, the God-man, right. Jesus Christ. So it's all an extension of the incarnation. So
right, but it's not open to your individual inquiry, because that's again through your personal understanding.
Sure it is. I mean, it's 99.999% me and my walk and my conscience and all that, and it's 0.00 whatever 1% the dogmas, and the teachings and the discipline. I always flash this on the screen. It's the fundamentals of Catholic dogma. There are 426 dogmas listed in this book. It's a fallible list of infallible dogmas. But, there may be more or less, and there may be some errors in this book. But basically, it paints a rough picture about what we cannot doubt as Catholics. It's 426 points, right? It's like, you could read that in the matter. You could read the list. I have the list on my website. You can read it in the matter of a few minutes, And my human life and my walk with Christ is incredibly rich. It's not just a bunch of bullet points, a bunch of dogmas. Like I have to believe, in the Trinity. I have to believe in the incarnation and all these sorts of these bullet points. They're very, very important. They're very, very important. But the richness of my walk with God is my relationship, my personal relationship with God. That's what it's about. That's what the Catholic faith is about.
So within the Catholic faith, you do have a personal relationship with God?
Of course.
Okay.
That's what it's all about.
That's not a new thing in the modern era. Is it?
Of course not. No. Right. What you're looking at is a caricature of the Catholic faith. You're looking at the what the enemies of the church have to say about it, right?
Right. I thought that was the whole thing about.
It's called prejudice.
I mistakenly thought that was the whole thing about the born again folks, that they have a personal connection to God, that they don't need a medium through which to speak with God.
Yeah, they're confused. They're very confused. Nice, lovely people, and they have a lot of saving truth in their particular Christian communities. These Protestants. Okay? And I was born and raised Protestant, by the way.
I'm not a fan, but go on.
Ah, okay. But anything that they have that's true, like every truth that they have is a Catholic truth, and all their errors and lies belong to them. Okay, so when it comes to Protestants, Orthodox, anyone that's a non-Catholic Christian, they have a lot of Christian truth, but all of that Christian truth that they have is Catholic. Okay, so I'm born again. I was born again at my baptism, right? And I have a personal relationship with God. And so all these things that they're holding up, and I have the Bible. I mean, don't ask them where they got the Bible. They got it from the Catholic Church. So they're all about the Bible. They're all about personal relationship with Jesus Christ. They're all about being born again. Well, I have all those things. The
Yeah.
evangelicals are evangelical. Well, I'm evangelical, right?
Oh,
It's like, it's like everything that they're
I'm not a
boasting
fan
about.
of that either, David.
Well, you're not a fan of any form of Christianity, I would imagine. But what's your favorite? What's your favorite
Favorite what?
brand of Catholicism? You like the Orthodox? You like the Catholic? Yeah.
Well, I don't have a. I mean, I don't have a skin in the game. I'm an atheist.
I know, but
But
there's no
let me ask you
preference.
this:
There's no preference.
when you, no,
Okay.
I mean, I've been to a Catholic mass. I think it's beautiful.
Huh?
I love
The smells
the
and bells.
heritage. Exactly. I love
The show.
the show. It's wonderful. I love everything about it. The art, the architecture,
Yeah.
the incense
Yeah.
and the sensory
Candles.
aspect of it, the beautiful music, everything.
Yeah.
It's got history, and that's a
Yeah.
human history. It's not about, it doesn't matter what you call it. Again, it's it, it's an important part of our society and our life. Just as Islam is a part of, even though I've never been a Muslim, is a part of my culture and part of my life. And it has its um, beauty and great things about it, as much as it has the other side also. But since Anna is Orthodox Greek, why not why not make her happy? Like, why
Yeah.
can't you have this relationship with your relationship with God be any less,
Yeah.
where you to have that relationship through
Yeah.
her church, so that you
Yeah.
have that connection?
Yeah. We say in the Catholic Church that the Orthodox branch is the second lung, like they're two lungs with which the church
And
breathes.
they were both recognized. It wasn't it's not like
But
they
they're in
weren't
schism.
separate
They're in schism. That's the
before.
problem. They're in schism. That's the problem. The problem is that they're in schism. They're in formal uh, schism with the church because of their attitude toward the Vicar of Christ, the Pope. That's a deal breaker
So
for
you
me.
don't think but that's a political thing. That's
No.
historically,
Well, it may be a
that was.
political thing, but it's a real schism. It's a schism that puts them outside of, uh, outside of.
But that's all based on the politics
No,
of how Europe was separated,
no, no.
how the empire broke up. It's
The
not about.
the Pope, the Bishop of Rome is not primarily a political thing. There's politics that he's involved in over the centuries, but it's not primarily a political thing. It's primarily a religious thing. It's primarily a God thing. It's like God ordained. God didn't have to incarnate. He didn't have to suffer and die for us. He didn't have to build a church, but he did. Okay, according to us, not according to you, but according to us, God came to earth, suffered and died, and built a church. And there's an economy of salvation, right? Like we have to follow what God has ordained, and we have to humble ourselves and say, well, I wouldn't have done it that way, but God chose to do it that way, so I'm just gonna obey. I'm just gonna obey.
ha-
Christ said, "If you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me,
Have you
obey me."
been to the Borghese Gallery in Rome?
No, I've been to Rome,
Okay,
but I wasn't Catholic when I was in Rome, so I was
you should
atheist.
go back and have a look at it.
Yeah,
And
I
I
will.
think you'd come back and tell me that Catholicism, as it's been practiced by the church, isn't entirely an abstraction. It happens within the context of human politics and human um, societies, changes in society.
Of course. But all I'm saying is that's
And
not the primary. That's not the primary purpose, and that's not the primary objective or goal of the church. If the church is worldly, and it is, sadly, it is worldly, that's a failing of the particular members of the church. The church is, wait for it, corrupt. The church is corrupt. It's perfect. It's a perfect society, but its members, many of them, including myself, are corrupt. Okay,
yeah,
so we have to think. You have to think because you're thinking about the world. You're thinking about what we call the church militant here below on earth. But there's also the church suffering in purgatory and the church triumphant in heaven. Jesus didn't unincarnate; he's still incarnate, and he's body and soul up in heaven with his mother, and his his foster father Joseph. They're up in heaven. Like there's a perfect heaven, and the church up there is perfect. In purgatory, it's being purified, and here below, it's a complete hot mess with wolves in sheep's clothing and weeds among the wheat. And the apostles said to Jesus, "Should we uproot the weeds, the tares, the weeds among the wheat?" And Jesus said, "No, don't uproot them. Let them grow side by side with the wheat. So the good with the bad, let it grow together. So at the end, I will sort it out." So
but it
basically,
seems that
all the corruption is here. Christ promised that it will always be here, and
right,
that we are not going to solve the problem, that he will sort it out at the end, because he's going to come, and he's going to come in judgment.
right.
So
But by
we
choosing the
accept the corruption.
Catholic Church as opposed to the Orthodox Church, it
Yeah.
seems like you've made that choice, haven't you?
My choice is for submission to God's will and to the authority, the God-given authority that the church has. The church is recognizable by four marks. It's one, holy, Catholic, and apostolic, but it also has three attributes. It has authority, it has indefectibility, meaning it will always be here, and it has infallibility, which means that it's protected from teaching error concerning faith and morals. And all of this happens, all of this happens under and with and never apart from the Vicar of Christ, the Bishop of Rome, the servant of the servants of God,
Yeah.
the Pope. Okay, that's the way that God's ordained salvation history. He didn't have to do it that way. But if I were to become Orthodox, I would be abandoning ship. I would be leaving not Christianity, but I would be in schism, and I would not be in right relationship with the church that Christ built. That's what I believe. That's why I'm Catholic and not Orthodox. My life would be a lot easier if I became Orthodox. My wife would be very happy, but I can't do that. Can't do that. I'd rather, I'm willing to lose her and the relationship with her, but not my relationship with God.
Okay. Now, I heard you in one of the podcasts that you said before you converted to Catholicism that you'd actually moved from this state of solipsis to become you describe yourself as a Satanist.
It was at the same time, right around the time that I became a hard solipsist. I was calling myself an atheistic Satanist.
I found that very frightening, but I want to know, what do you mean by that?
It's the most common worldview that there is. It's the self-centered will, my will be done, and an inordinate trust in the natural sciences and in reason, the Enlightenment mentality. That I can have access to the truth using my reason, which is true. But there's a lopsided emphasis in Satanism, which says that we can know, and we can. It's almost like making an idol out of the truth or science or reason or knowledge and these sorts of things. That's what Satanism is all about. And the will, not necessarily the will to power, but just the self-will. My will be done. And Christianity is the opposite. Christ said, if it's possible, let this cup of suffering pass from me, but not my will be done, your will be done, Father. And he submitted to the Father's will perfectly, and he suffered, went against his human inclination. His human inclination was, I don't want to suffer, but not my will be done, your will be done. And the Satanist says, there is no God, and the atheistic Satanist, which I think is the most powerful form of atheism, of Satanism, they say there is no God, and so I'm going to do my will, right? And I'm going to avoid suffering. Right, so it's like the complete opposite of Christianity. And we know the path to heaven is narrow and difficult, and the path to hell is broad and pleasant. So
I guess the problem I have with that, again, is sort of a duality that is so
stark,
black and white, right? It's sort of like either we conform to the will of God, or anything goes. That my will and my will is to do anything. It's a in and in both of these dualities, it's a you take no responsibility for your actions, right? It is my will, anything goes. That's just, or I do this because of the fear of God's wrath, or because He's told me to do this. Whereas I think that you can be a moral person. Like I believe in the golden rule. I think that's a good guiding principle, right? That you are responsible to the people. It's not about you. You have a responsibility to everyone and everything around you, without the necessity of having the stick up, the of the
Let
brimstone,
let
and
me let
fire
me
and brimstone there,
yeah.
or the
Let me
gift of
agree with you. Let me agree with you and moderate your vision by saying that mediocrity is everywhere. It's in those who believe, it's in those who don't believe. Okay? I was mediocre as an atheist, I'm mediocre as a Christian. Okay? So God help me, because it says in Revelation that God will spit out the lukewarm. He wants you to be hot or cold. There are very few Satanists who are actually have the balls to pursue their will and to be manly about it, and to rebel, and to be really like Aleister Crowley or whatever. His life didn't end well, but he really, he really lived out his Satanism, with the sex magic and all the violence and everything he did to maximize his pleasure for some decades. And it's the same thing on the good side. When it comes to those who are claiming to serve God, claiming to be Christian, there are very few saints. Like, I mean, you could read a history of the saints, and yeah, it's thousands. It's in the thousands. But I mean, how many? We have 8 billion today, and we only have thousands of examples. So when it comes to the actual number of the saints and those who are up in heaven, obviously we don't know. We don't know the number. All we know is that the church, and like I said, the church is Christ. The church has given us certain examples to look at, the great saints, Saint Paul in the Bible, and Saint Peter, and all sorts of saints. Saint Mary, of course, is the first and foremost among them. But saints in every decade of every century up until today, they're still great saints, but they're just few and far between. So my point is that most people are like me. They're just weak, and they're mediocre, and they're not doing a good job on either side. I wasn't a great Satanist either. I was not a great Satanist. I gave
Well,
Satanism a bad name. I
I'm
gave
happy
Satanism
to
a bad
hear
name.
that. Also, you frightened me that way, because I'm not sure if you're not. How do I know you're not a Satanist now? How do I know you're not committed to that? And this is all because how you
It's
see,
a
my
mockery.
senses are limited.
Yeah,
How do I know
yeah.
this is the real you?
Yeah, well, you can't know the real me. You can't know the real me. But I do admit openly on my podcast that I'm still a Satanist. I'm still a Satanist, but just begrudgingly, unwillingly. I don't want to be. I don't want to be, but I still am. I still seek my own will, right?
Okay,
I'm
I
still
don't
a
see
selfish
myself.
egomaniac. I'm still a
I
selfish
don't see
egomaniac.
myself as a Satanist, and I'm happy to be mediocre. If not being mediocre means being evil, I don't think that you need to be evil. I think that you can pursue good without
Yeah.
having faith in God.
I want to say another thing about the natural virtues. They're good, and Jesus talks about this. Like the pagans, they love their wives and they take care of their kids, and they don't give when the child's hungry, they don't give it a scorpion, they give it bread. So it's like there's natural virtue. There is natural virtue, and thank God for that. And it's everything good that we have, we received, right? If you don't, if you received it, why are you boasting about it, right? This is
Mhm.
the Christian humility. Like everything good you have, you received. It's a grace, so you can't boast, right? So the pagans should thank God for all their natural virtue. But even though I don't even have as much natural virtue as you do. You're an atheist. You have more natural virtue than I do. That's a reality. That's a manifest reality. But your natural virtue can't save you, right? So it's not about the natural virtues. It's about the supernatural virtues. I wonder if you can name the three supernatural virtues. Are you Christian enough by culture to know what the three supernatural virtues are?
Educate me. No.
Faith, hope, and charity. Faith, hope, and love. Have you not heard about that?
Um, weren't there seven virtues?
There are
Charity, one of
plenty of
them?
virtues. There are plenty of virtues, but there are three that are
Right.
central, three that are supernatural and essential, without which you
Hmm.
can't be saved. And it's faith, hope,
Hmm.
and love. And faith and hope are going to disappear once we get to heaven. They're going to be fulfilled. So
Right.
what's left is love. It's all about love. You talked about the personal relationship with God. God is love. And that's what
Hmm.
it's all about. You also talked about a servile fear where you got a master in the sky, you're afraid of hell and the punishment. That's not perfect. It's
So
good. It's good to
why
be
are
afraid.
those?
It's good to fear the punishment. It's good, but it's not perfect. That's for the beginners. I'm a beginner. I still have that sort of thing like, well, I don't want to go to hell, so I'm going to try to strive for virtue. But once I
Yeah.
mature in my faith, God willing, hopefully I'll get there, it won't be about that fear. It'll be about love, because that's the perfect Christian way.
Right.
But there's also, on the one side, there's despair where I'm afraid of hell and these sorts of things. On the other side of love is presumption, where I think, well, I'm once saved, always saved, born again Christian. I know I'm going to heaven and I can do what I want and I can sin and sin boldly, as Luther said, and I don't need to follow the commandments, even though Jesus said, if you love me, keep the commandments. And so, yeah, my friend is pointing out they're also called theological virtues, as well as what did I call them? Supernatural virtues.
So why are they? Why are these the essential virtues? What separates these from the other virtues?
Well, if you're leaning on your own understanding, and you, for example, as Satan and the demons do, they know that God exists. They know that He's all good. They know that He's the source of everything that's good. But they don't submit, right? They don't obey.
Mhm.
That's why we need the faith and the hope. Like, I mean, the hope goes hand in hand with that faith. It's that belief. It's the belief in things unseen. So,
It-
it's like, you don't have it in your possession, but you believe that it's there based on the promise or based on evidence of things unseen. And so, the hope that we have will be fulfilled in heaven, and the reward for having had the hope is that you get to see that which you hoped for.
Love seems to me pretty clear. It's just intuitively understandable.
What is your definition of love?
Love just again goes back to the golden rule: treat others as you want to be treated, right? And
Yeah.
caring. Just it's innate in us. It's innate as a human characteristic. I think that when we move away from love, that is an aberration. But faith and hope, not only are they not, don't they seem to me intrinsically natural, but they also seem to me to be almost, from a certain perspective, an unusual juxtaposition of each other. Like the Greeks, obviously, you have Pandora's box. What is the greatest um, pox on humanity? It is hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, from the Greek worldview, where things are fated, right? Um, that seems to be, it seems to me that when you hope, you are submitting to a hope. Is kind of funny. Is it faith or is it choice? Are you working towards something? But with faith, it seems to me that um, well, I guess you can choose to have faith. Maybe that's
Yeah,
where choice
it's a
is in
choice.
it.
Yeah, it's a choice.
But
Absolutely.
it's not certainly, yeah.
I'm going to read
But
you something.
they seem to be just a sort of an oxymoron in some form.
I want to read you from the Catholic Encyclopedia on hope, okay? It says hope in its widest acceptation is described as the desire of something together with the expectation of obtaining it. The scholastics say, these are the medieval philosophers, the scholastics say that this is a movement of the appetite towards a future good, which, though hard to attain, is possible of attainment. Consideration of this state of soul is limited in this article to its aspect as a factor in the supernatural order. Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Hope is termed a theological virtue because its immediate object is God, as is true of the other two essentially infused virtues, faith and charity. St. Thomas acutely says that the theological virtues are so called because they have God for their object, both insofar as by them we are properly directed to him, and because they are infused into our souls by God alone, as also finally because we come to know them only by divine revelation in the sacred scriptures. So I'll stop reading there, but
Right. Okay.
yeah, so it's a gift. It's a gift. Like grace is a gift given to us by God, and like I said, everything good that we have we received from God. But when it comes to the theological virtues of faith, hope and love, without which we can't be saved, these are special graces that we have to correspond with. Like, I mean, when I received the faith, I told you when I found that I'm not God, that God is God, when I admitted that, I was given infused knowledge, and I had a certain clarity about certain principles that had eluded me for 25 years of my atheism. And so it's just a certain gift of God. It affects the intellect, it affects the memory, it affects the heart and the mind and everything in the soul. And but we have to correspond with that. I can't just say, well, I got saved. I got saved at my baptism, or I got saved at my moment of conversion, or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's true. That's true, but I mean, I'm also being saved now, and will be saved in the future, and hopefully, at my last breath, when I die, when I transition from this life to the next life, I will be saved in that moment. I will be, in the state of grace, because there are two states that we walk around in. There's the state of grace and the state of sin, and if you're in the state of mortal sin, then when you die, you go to hell. Like, that's the reality. That's the urgency of the Christian message. It's like you can't just say, well, I don't know, and anything's possible, because you're in danger. That's the Christian message. That's the warning that I'm obliged to give you. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I'm obliged to give you that warning. It's like you can't just laugh it off. It's a serious question. Like, yeah.
But
Go ahead.
let me ask you this. You recognize that the instruments of the church can be fallible and broken.
Of course.
Because people are fallible and broken,
Yeah.
right? But yet you have a personal relationship with God. I mean, this is how you came to your faith, right?
Yeah.
So, and that fallibility exists within your church, as well as let's say the Orthodox Church or the evangelical.
Yeah, but whoa. When you talk about the church, when you talk about the church, I would prefer that you specify the church militant, which is this broken and wounded and imperfect thing here below. But the church,
right.
the church itself is the church itself. Yeah, the church itself is perfect. It's just that here below, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
And if I die in the state of grace, which I hope to do, if I still have temporal punishment due to my sins that I haven't worked off, or that I haven't suffered away, or if I haven't done my purgatory here below, I'm gonna have to go to purgatory. But so when you talk about the church, just be careful to remember
the physical form here on earth.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, couldn't you also have the same relationship with God, even if you believe that the Orthodox Church is a schism, as it is within the Christian tradition? Because that's fallible. That's a broken system also. But that doesn't mean that. How does that impact your faith?
Well, it's like there is truth, there is Catholic truth in Scientology, but I'm not going to use that fact to go and join Scientology. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I can't violate my own conscience. I believe that Scientology is a false religion. I believe Eastern Orthodoxy is a false religion. I believe Islam is a false religion. I believe modern day, rabbinic Judaism is a false religion. So I can't belong to anything but Christianity. And for me, Christianity, the fullness of Christianity, is Catholicism, because of the question of authority, infallibility, and indefectibility. Right. There is no other option. There's no plan B for me.
Okay. And you had also said that you admire Judaism. Why? Why do you admire Judaism?
Well, because Christ is a Jew, and the Jews are the chosen people, and we we are the younger brother. We've usurped the place of the elder brother, who are the Jews, but we're considered like dogs eating the crumbs under the table of the Jews. The Jews are the priestly people that were chosen by God, not because they're good, but he chose them because they
Right.
were
Doesn't that
small.
that seems a bit unjust, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
What do I mean? I mean, I'm not a Jew.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, but the
it
Jews were
seems
chosen
rather
to serve you.
arbitrary that some
The,
genetic.
they were chosen to serve you. They were chosen to help you.
Yeah,
They were
okay.
chosen. They had a job. They were given a job and a responsibility. It's not fun. Read the
I
Old
don't know.
Testament. Read the Old Testament. If
The
you think
Old
it,
Testament is full of genocide also,
yeah, yeah. So it's not
which
fun.
seems
It's
to be
not pleasant.
sanctioned by God, as it's described in the Bible.
Yeah, well, we're not Bible alone Christians, right? We Catholics, we have a church, a living magisterium that actually is guided by the Holy Spirit and protects us from, from falling prey to errors and lies when it comes to the dogmas. And we also have the stewardship of the living magisterium to give us discipline. And it could be, there could be errors involved in the disciplines. And I disagree with the Pope about a few things, and that's okay. We're not supposed to agree with the Pope on everything. But when it comes to, we're supposed to submit to the Pope and these sorts of things. But when it comes to the appraisal of, the Old Testament God versus the New Testament God or whatever, it's like Mother Church teaches us very clearly. It's the same God, and salvation history is always messy and ugly. And as Jesus said, the example that I like to use is what Jesus himself said when he walked the earth. They were talking about divorce, and he said, "Well, what did Moses teach?" And I don't know how familiar you are with the Old and New Testament, but the Jews of his day said, well, Joseph said we could issue a paper of divorce. And Jesus said, yeah, but that was just a concession to your hardness of heart. So here within the New Testament, we have a revision about God's law being given to Moses concerning certain teachings like divorce. Okay. And we understand because of that, that what we could see as the gospel truth coming from the lips of Moses, who spoke directly with God, is actually a concession made by God, because that's what the God man told us when he came and walked the earth and he talked to the Jews about divorce, for example. So we can apply that same principle to the genocides and to smacking babies' heads against the brick wall, whatever. We can apply that lens to everything that doesn't appeal to us in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, because ultimately what it comes down to is that God is making concessions, and God is walking with his chosen people and with the nations. And the way that we have to think about it is that God created a perfect world, Adam and Eve. I'm a young Earth creationist, in case you didn't know. I believe the whole universe is 7,000 years old or so, and we can
You
talk
do
about
believe
that.
that?
I do believe that. Yeah, I believe that.
You do believe that?
Yeah, I believe the whole universe is about 7,000 years old. Yeah.
Oh, David.
Yeah.
That's
You disappointed?
well, I mean that's faith, I'd say. It's
Yeah, I
certainly
mean,
not
you're
science.
not gonna find a lot of Catholics who believe that, but I believe that. But I don't know if you know the scene of the wedding at Cana, right? The wedding at Cana. Do you remember when Jesus and his mother and the apostles went to the wedding, and he changed water into wine? Do you remember the story? Jesus turned water
Not
into
really
wine.
the
You must be
story.
familiar with the story.
Yeah.
Anyway, the wine, there were 6 jugs, right? Remember the 6 days of creation? There were 6 jugs of water, and the wine that he made was very delicious. It was like perfect wine, but it appeared to have a history. It appeared to be made from grapes that had been planted, cultivated, aged, and fermented, and there's like a timeline that's apparent. If you were to look at the wine, you would say, well, this was not made today. This was not made 5 minutes ago. This has a history. And it's the same thing with the universe. It's like, the 6 days of creation. Boom. And is there starlight? Yeah, no problem. Is there,
Mhm.
and the Great Flood explains a lot of the stuff with the layers, and if you've examined sort of the tree trunks that are going through these millions of years of of sediment, you come to understand that there's more than one interpretation, and the dating methods and these sorts of things. There are many
Sure,
problems, many problems. And when you
sure.
talk about abiogenesis, and if you look at the principles of metaphysics that are violated by the so-called theories of evolution, it's completely untenable. So there's my side, I would say, has better natural science than your side, the worldly secular,
Mhm.
evolution side. I think we could debate that any day of the week and I'll come out ahead. I would need to prepare all the volumes of stuff. But I'm way more. I think the natural science is on my side, not on your side.
All right. Well, I'm not sure we'd come to an agreement on that, but it would be an interesting debate.
Yeah. So, what other questions have you got for me? Let's keep going.
Um, I guess it comes to a question of just as a friendship, this trust, right? If you lose your faith, are you are you a dangerous person? Are you a dangerous person to me now?
How would I be?
Like
What?
would are you craven to give in to all of your whims and your
No.
desires if without, or are you going to continue to be mediocre regardless
Yeah.
of how strong your faith is or remains?
Well, I
Because I
hope.
would like it, I would like
Yeah.
to think that you'll remain mediocre.
Thank you very much. Very nice of you. I'm being sarcastic. But no, I mean the goal is to become a saint, right? The goal is to stop being mediocre. That's the goal. But I could lose my faith. I could lose my faith. That's a possibility. I could lose my faith because I don't have 100% certainty that Christianity is true, therefore that Catholicism is true. I don't have that. It's a leap of faith. Okay? But what I am certain of is God, the uncaused first cause, God the Father, whatever you want to call him. That cannot be shaken. The only plan B is that I'm God, but I even have a way to reason my way out of that. Um, I've come.
I would agree. There's lots of ways to reason on that.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
definitely not God, David. Never have been, never will be.
yeah, yeah. But yeah. So I'm not going to lose my belief in God, but all of my faith-based beliefs, I could be wrong. I don't think I am. I think that, I've spent the last 2009, so however many years that is, 15 years or 14 years, I've spent that time challenging my faith, looking for reasons to leave, looking at all the challenges that are offered by not only the atheists and the skeptics, but that are offered by the anti-Catholics, or the anti-Christians who happen to be religious in their own right, like Muslim attacks on Christianity, Jewish attacks on Christianity, intellectually, philosophically. I'm exposing myself to all of that, always encouraging debate, meeting with people that disagree, trying to find the Achilles heel and these sorts of things.
I'll tell you what, David. I'm not trying to convince you at all to leave. I'm glad you have found this faith because I'm hopeful and I think that you're striving to be a better man and a better human being.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to change or derail that ever, especially when the alternative is Satanism. In your mind,
Yeah. Well, I
the
would never
only
go
thing
back to
that I
that. I
would
would never go
challenge
back to
you
that.
is
Yeah.
that that's not the only alternative. There are
Yeah.
different paths to becoming an enlightened and good human being and to achieve for goodness. The alternative, I would disagree that is that binary.
Well, the alternative to being a man of faith, to being Christian, is being a generic monotheist, where it's like I still worship God the Father and am seeking the one true religion. You know what I mean? It's like I
I
can't
think
go lower than
monotheism,
that. I can't go lower than that. Like
right,
once you see it, you can't unsee it. I hope you go
right.
off and read Blessed John Duns Scotus. I don't imagine you will because it's tough reading, but I'll send you links. I'll send you links, and maybe in 6 months you come back and
I'm
we'll
not
talk
sure
about
I
it.
have the interest or the
Uh,
for that, but maybe at some point.
what do you think happens to you, like let's say well, what do you think happens at the moment of
We
death?
studied
What do you think
physics,
happens?
David.
Yeah.
We studied physics. It
Yeah.
was not about my physical existence, nor did it matter. It was about understanding the how the universe is made, and not in relationship to myself. Right? It's not in relation to me that
It's a
matters because
disinterested
I
love of
believe in a physical believe in causality. I
yeah.
believe in the reality of the universe, and therefore my existence with it is irrelevant.
Yeah, it sounds like humility, but it's not real humility. It's what it is because you are, you know, you are important. You are a component of,
I'm important to me.
well, no, not only
And
that, but there's, you know, think about the just like in very simple pragmatic terms and your relationships, you know, with family and your own children and these sorts of
yeah,
things and your wife
no,
and these
no,
sorts of things. They're very
I'm
real.
important.
They're very real
Yeah,
meaning and
no, no,
value.
I'm not dismissing. I'm not claiming humility because I'm not trying to impress anyone.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to go to heaven or anything. I'm just saying that my version of reality, that there is nothing after of me after I die, is consistent with a physical reality of a universe. That is, when I close my eyes, the universe continues to exist with or without me. And while I'm important to me and the people I love and those around me, you know, I'm not important to some creature around Alpha Centauri or, you know,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
whatever.
the fact that you love, the fact that you have free will, and I'm hoping that you do believe in free will. Do you believe in free will?
I haven't made up my mind. I've this question of fate versus choice of free will is always fascinating to me, and I'm not sure. I think it's there's some things that are within our control, some things that are not, and
Yeah.
I can't make up my mind on where that line is, or if there is a
Yeah.
line.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have absolute freedom. Only God has absolute freedom from my perspective. But, you know, for you to admit that you have any freedom whatsoever means that you do
No,
believe in free will. You're not a
I do
determinist.
believe that I have some. I believe there's always a choice to be made. That I can make that choice, but I don't determine always what those choices are.
Yeah, of course, of course. There are
It's
constraints.
it's not an
Constraints.
infinite. You never have an infinite number of choices in front of you. And as
Yeah.
we get older, those choices become less and less.
Do you believe in the, yeah, do you believe in the supernatural?
Um, if by supernatural, how we define it is something that is not natural,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
cannot be understood within not necessarily our laws of physics, because our understanding is ever expanding, but within the natural universe, then the answer is no.
You don't believe in that. So you are a determinist. You believe that every thought you have is the logical consequence of the preceding state.
Within the limitations of my consciousness. Yeah.
So you don't believe in free will because free will is by definition supernatural. It's not natural. If it were natural, it would be determined, right? You do understand that. So, I mean, you're a naturalist, therefore you're a hard determinist, and there's no free will. There can only be the illusion of free will. So maybe you believe in the illusion of free will.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's you're absolutely right.
And
I
so
believe that.
there is no morality. For you, there is no morality.
No, no, no. I disagree
There's
with
only
that.
the illusion of morality because there's only the illusion of free choice, and there can be no praise or blame if there's no reality of free choice. There can only be
I
the
just
illusion
no,
of
no,
praise and blame. There,
no,
because
no.
it's all hard
It's
determined. It's all hard determined. There can be no praise and there can be no blame if everything is exactly how it has to be. And there is no free choice. There's only the illusion of free choice. And with that illusion comes the illusion of morality, but there's no real morality.
no.
That's the
They
problem.
can be. There are choices. Just because it's determined,
The,
that doesn't mean that there aren't choices
Yeah, but the
within
choice
there.
is determined and
It's
your reaction is determined.
you're assuming there is only one outcome that's possible. It's
Well,
always a statistical
oh,
option.
you believe in multiverse?
Again, it depends on how you define it, and I don't know. I don't know.
Yes or no? Do you believe in the multiverse? Yes or no? Take a stab in the dark. Yes or no? What's your hunch?
Well, what do you mean by multiverse? What do you mean
That
by
when
multiverse?
you have X number of choices, that branches out into X number of realities where you choose each one.
Um, no, I don't believe
Okay.
in that.
So in other words, there's only one choice that's made. Whenever you have options, you only make one choice. You go down one path. You could have done the other thing, but you did this thing. So it is only one outcome always, right? According to
There's
you, and
only
it's
one
determined
outcome
to
that,
be.
well, it's you see, okay, we can go into the travel into the future, David, but we can't travel into the past, right? Only on a relative basis, but not in an absolute basis, right? Which is what you have, why you have causality. One outcome comes out, but that doesn't mean that outcome is predetermined.
Well, not according to me. It's not predetermined according to me, but it's predetermined according to you, because it's
well, once it happens, it's determined. There's no
No, for you, even before it happens, it's predetermined. That's what predetermined means. It's predetermined because that's the way that things inevitably unfold for you as a naturalist. As a naturalist, yeah, you'll need to go away and think about it. But as a naturalist,
I need to think about this.
As a naturalist, you're locked into everything's predetermined. Everything's predetermined.
Yeah, I haven't thought about this deeply enough to see if what I'm saying is consistent.
When we come back, when we come back,
maybe I have a more limited consciousness than you, David.
When we come back and do part 2 in a few weeks or months, depending on your mood and how you feel about this episode, we'll discuss it.
I've enjoyed talking with you, David.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. Like I said, you're as interesting today as you were 30 years ago.
Oh, thank you very much. When did you and I meet? Was it 92? Was it in first year or second year?
It was, I believe, the second year.
Second
93.
year. Yeah.
So it's been 30 years.
Ah, wow, great fun. So, the way I'm gonna have to wrap it up here and get back to the wife, but the way that I wrap up, as you may know, is I ask the guest to give just sort of final thoughts, something pleasant, something hopeful, from your perspective. And bear in mind, I got all kinds of different people in my audience.
I'll tell you something, hopeful. I think that your conversion gives me hope, because with you, David, it's this push. I've always been, attracted to your charisma, but there's always been this fear of, are you bullshitting, or are you, how dangerous exactly are you as a human being, and how much of a threat you are. And I'm hopeful that your Christianity has made you a better person. So there's something hopeful about that. However you reach that, that's great.
Hey, would you like to do a 3-way call with Ben Robbins? Or you want to talk to him privately first?
I think, yeah. Let's give it time. I'm open to that. Let's put it that way.
It could be fun.
I think, well, Ben is an interesting person. Ben is a very interesting person, but he's very reserved often.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see my dark side. Do you see his dark side also, or no?
I don't have enough of it. I never was able to figure Ben out entirely. What I remember about Ben is that we were in second year. That was my first year at Waterloo. I was taking Dr. Leslie's electromagnetic class. Do you remember that? It was a in the midterm. You weren't there. I think you were off on a work term. Ben was in that class with me. And in the midterm, he did one of those things where he designed a midterm to fail everybody. And there was a Cambodian boy who was brilliant.
Hi? Kim
Remember him?
Kim Hai?
Hi, yeah.
Yeah.
I got 82%. I worked my butt off because Leslie was such an overtly racist bigot. I wanted to show that mother, So I worked my butt off and I got 82% in the midterm. I think Hai got like 89, and I think Ben got I don't know if it was actually, this was the midterm. Anyhow, everybody else was 70% was the highest mark from my 82. That everybody else, it was one of those exams. And I think it was in the finals. Ben hadn't been to the classes, he must have been to the classes, but he hadn't done any work or anything the whole year. He comes in half an hour before the exam. I'd been studying for days and days and days. He asks me about the hardest problem there, and I show him like within 15 minutes. We go in. He's like half drunk going in, and he gets the highest mark in the class, and I'm like way behind. So that's my story of Ben. He can waltz in, and he was just so brilliant, such a bright light.
And
And
and not only is he a genius or whatever, but he's got the quirky charm and the personality. I mean, I don't know if he had a way with the ladies or not, but
oh,
he had his way with me. He could really charm me, and we had a lot of fun. And
totally, with everyone. That's the thing. It's sort of like life seemed to just come so easy to Ben. That's the part of that story, right? He had this boyish charm that you could, just a lovely person, incredibly curious about everything, and like a sponge that way, like, right?
yeah,
So I would love to establish a relationship with
my neck
them.
would get sore like talking to him because he's so tall. But yeah, we had
All
real
right, let's do it. Let's
let's
do it.
do it. Let's do it. So, but give him a call on your own time and just chat. He'd be very pleased to hear from you.
All right.
And
I
anyway,
hope you've enjoyed our
yeah. Well,
reconnection.
listen,
I
yeah,
have.
of course, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I prefer email to text because like this is my work phone, and it's like I don't like using the cell phone. I prefer to
Mhm.
use email. So I hope you're gonna check your emails a little bit more frequently because I think it was like I sent you an email like
Couple of years.
yeah, like years, and
I
then
was
you're like,
just
oh,
my email was just full, so I was going through deleting everything, and that's how I came across your email.
cool. Divine
Yeah,
providence. Divine providence.
I'm very.
Very cool. Don't forget to invite Andrea on. I know she's going to say no, but maybe there'll be a miracle. That'll be proof to
She'll
you.
say no,
Okay.
but send my regards to Anna.
Yeah.
Tell her I have fond memories of you guys, and oh yeah, look at her. That's just still the same. And
So
if
cute.
I'm in Montreal, I
Yeah.
would love to come and see you guys
Yeah. How often do you come here?
a couple times a year at least.
Oh,
So I'll
wow.
give you a call the next time I'm driving.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, my brother.
All right.
So I love you lots and thank you for everything. And thanks for coming on. And, it's a
So
bit of it's a crazy kind of podcast that I do. So thanks for having the
thanks
courage to
for
come on.
trying to reconnect with me, and I'm glad
Yeah.
we finally did.
Amazing, my brother. So I'm going to be praying for you and yours. You can do your whatever your atheist equivalent of prayer is for me, okay?
Don't think of me as a Satanist just because I'm not religious. I don't believe in that.
Right.
Just always let that be the guiding light. Is kindness and consideration for other people.
Loving kindness, yes. So God bless you, my brother, and let's really keep in touch and let's chat again. You have an open invitation. I hope you know that. Like, let's just chat whenever you're
Well,
comfortable. We'll chat again.
we'll definitely reconnect in a few months at least
Okay,
at the latest.
excellent.
Okay.
Looking forward
Take
to it, my
care, Dave.
brother. Take care. Bye bye.
Send my regards to Anna.
Will do. Love you. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.